Hello. Just so all of you know, I do have a stutter or a stammer. So if you ever have any questions or don't understand something, please don't hesitate to send a question, and I will answer as quick as I can since I'm here. All right. So, despite the pederasty, murder, attempted premarital sex, fornication, and kidnapping within Achilles Tatius' novel, all things that would at first seem repulsive to early Christians, the martyr text Passio Sanctorum Galactionis et Epistemes seems to have used many of the same themes that are in the second century Greek novel. The story was likely composed in the 10th century during the Byzantine period, as seen by the text's use of monasteries, despite the martyrdom taking place in the 3rd century. Galaction and Episteme were a couple that were supposedly martyred in Emesa during the reign of Decius. Leucippe, the mother of Galaction, was unable to bear a child for her husband Clitophon, an abusive husband. Onufrius, a monk, preached to Leucippe, promising that she would bear a child if she became a Christian. She was baptized and soon became pregnant with Galaction, which then converted the husband Clitophon. As a young man, Galaction met the beautiful Episteme, but refused to marry her unless she converted to Christianity. 8 days after her baptism and their wedding, after a vision from Episteme, Galaction convinced her to go their separate ways and serve in monasteries. Galaction, however, was soon captured by Roman officials, and Episteme, upon hearing the news, willingly gave herself to the officials, who ordered that Galaction and Episteme lose their hands, feet, and eventually their heads. While scholars have noted that the many similarities concerning themes and passion narratives and the novel, little has been written about this particular passion narrative. Delahaye and Morales recognize the similar names between characters in both texts, but state that there is little importance to these names. Morales writes, "These anecdotes are most likely part of a strategy of appropriation of the novels into a Christian agenda, without which they might never have been preserved." She also mentions that Achilles Tatius was later converted to Christianity and became a bishop, but does not mention anything further. If these names were used for a Christian agenda, what do the names Leucippe and Clitophon imply? Why include them in this particular martyr text if the names of the characters do not imply anything important for the rest of the text? The purpose of this paper is to point out and analyze the similar themes of Passio Sanctorum Galactionis et Epistemes with Achilles Tatius's Leucippe and Clitophon, while many scholars, including Delahaye and Morales, agree that there is little use of reading the passion narrative of Galaction and Episteme with Achilles Tatius' novel. I argue that the modern narrative uses many similar themes with the novel. Themes from Plato's Symposium that are prevalent in the novel appear within the modern narrative. Episteme's behavior towards torture and virginity is incredibly similar to that of Leucippe, and as well the beauty of the female protagonists. By revealing these similarities, further questions in scholarship can be performed on the martyr text and the use of the Greek novel in Christian literature. So, in Achilles Tatius' novel, there is a recurring theme of the separation of two lovers, where we see Leucippe and Clitophon separated and reunited on many occasions. This theme of separation, according to Whitmarsh and Morales, refers to the story of Aristophanes in Plato's Symposium. The allowance of a comparison of the novel to Platonic themes, according to Whitmarsh, is explained by the meaning of Clitophon's name. The name Clitophon means famous voiced, and is the same name as the subject in Plato's Clitophon. In Symposium 190 C and D, Aristophanes describes the existence of three sexes and how the third androgynous sex was split in half by Zeus because of their strength, vigor, and their excessive pride. This scene of splitting the androgynous figure, Aristophanes argues, is the reason why humans seek love between one another. See handout 1. The themes of this tale describe that life consists of a separation, a search, and a reunion of lovers. The purpose of life, then, is to seek the other person that makes them complete. We see the themes of separation, search, and reunion from Plato's Symposium multiple times within Achilles, Tatius's Leucippe, and Clitophon. Starting in Book 1, Clitophon has a dream that is incredibly similar to Aristophanes' tale. See handout 2. In a very similar fashion as Zeus and the androgynous figure in Aristophanes' tale, Clitophon was violently separated from Caligone, his fiancée. However, the power of this passage is seen later in the text as we see Clitophon's infatuations towards Leucippe and their many adventures. Each instance of Clitophon's and Leucippe's separation ends with a recognition and a reunion scene of the two lovers, thus recompleting one another. By using these Platonic themes, Achilles Tatius seeks to illustrate how separation, searching, and reuniting can lead to the completion of one's character. In the Passion narrative, we see these similar themes of separation, search, and reunion. Although there is no violent separation from one's lover, we do see a voluntary separation between the couple not long after their marriage. 8 days after the baptism of Epistemes, she received a vision that symbolized those who were celebrated by the angels for leaving their loved ones for God. In response, Galactionis said that they should do the same thing, relinquish all of their goods and their relationship, and join a monastery. Instead of focusing on their separation, the narrator focuses on their reunion and the effects that it has on their martyrdom. After Ursus called for the gathering of the Christians, all the monks in Galaction's monastery fled. The guards only found Galaction, and binding him, they took him away, eliciting this response from Episteme, handout 3. While the Greek word teleio can imply death and martyrdom, it also calls upon the previous themes that we have seen in Plato and Achilles Tatius. By using the verb for perfection and completion, we see the Platonic theme of how one becomes perfect by forming with their other half. This reunion is essential as they encourage each other towards martyrdom. While this separation was not forced upon them, unlike the many separations of the couple in the ancient novel, the moral of the story is the same as Achilles Tatius' novel. It is only together that they are able to become fully perfected. The deaths of Galaction and Episteme continue this Platonic theme. Ursus, the ruler, ordered that their limbs and head be severed as their form of execution. See handout 4. We again see the themes of Plato's Symposium in this passage. Before cutting the androgynous figure, Zeus also threatens that he will continue to cut them in half if they continue in their pride. He says, "If they continue turbulent and do not choose to keep quiet, I will do it again," said he. "I will slice every person in two, and then they must go their ways on one leg, hopping." This continued severing was meant to weaken the figure if they continued to be a disturbance. Like the story of Aristophanes, the martyrs Galaction and Episteme retreated in a similar way through their dismemberment. Being a disturbance, the couple continued to preach to Ursus and the onlookers, which Ursus saw as a threat. And Ursus ordered that their hands and feet be severed in order to stop their blaspheming and weaken their ability to preach on account of their pain. When that failed, Ursus killed them by means of decapitation in order to silence them. By Ursus's continued severing of the martyrs' limbs, he hoped to weaken the martyrs. His plan backfired, however, on account of the unity of Galaction and Episteme. No amount of lost limbs could compensate for the unity that they have together and their preaching. By adding Platonic themes into the martyr narrative, the author of the martyr text calls upon the themes of Achilles Tatius while also showing the unity and power that comes from marriage and unity that stems from the names Leucippe and Clitophon. While the martyr text borrows from Plato, it also emphasizes Stoic ideals. The use of torture and spectacle in Roman society was meant to assert Roman masculinity and dominance over their conquered foes, thus emasculating them. However, while most victims become passive figures by being tortured, Leucippe in Achilles Tatius' novel remained the Stoic figure. One of the famous scenes of Achilles Tatius' novel is the conversation between Leucippe and Thersander at the end of Book 6, where Leucippe rejects him and defends her virginity. See handout 5. Leucippe is unafraid of any of the torture that Thersander could inflict upon her and is more than willing to endure them all, whereas any other individual would have cowered in the face of such horrendous devices. Ptolemaeus, the narrator, presents Galaction and Epistemes similarly to Leucippe in Achilles Tatius' novel. They are strong, fearless, and willing to endure anything that Ursus throws upon them, which includes being scourged, beaten, stripped, thrown upon nails, and eventually dismembered. While the stoic nature of the martyrs was portrayed, the use of virginity and maidenhood within these tortures is a common theme in both the novel and the martyr narrative. Leucippe in the ancient novel was willing to endure all of these tortures and more in order to maintain her chastity. Episteme is similar, as she attempts to join Galaction in martyrdom. One of the nuns attempts to dissuade her. See handout 6. Unlike Leucippe in the ancient novel, Episteme is not fighting to keep her virginity in a sexual sense, but in a spiritual one. However, the end result is the same. As mentioned previously, the use of Leucippe's courage in the ancient novels was meant to show her stoic and masculine nature. While she would have been destroyed physically by these devices, nothing would change her mind. This idea is common in other Latin literature. Publius Syrus writes, "The will, not the body, creates the robbing of chastity." Seneca writes, "The mind is accustomed to create the robbing of chastity, not the occurrences. The mind and mentality are more important than the actual act itself." Achilles Tatius seems to believe this as well, as he portrays Leucippe in handout 7. The nun, trying to dissuade Episteme, is trying to tell her about her loss of maidenhood if she relinquishes her belief in Christ, showing a change of mind. However, like Leucippe in the novel, Episteme remains stalwart in her belief in Christ despite their tortures and subsequent death. Like Leucippe, she too maintains her virginity. So, the purpose of this paper was to indicate the similar traits and themes of Achilles Tatius' Leucippe and Clitophon with Passio, Sanctorum, Galactionis, et Epistemes. In addition to these themes, others, such as the beauty and noble status of the protagonist women, are extant as well, as seen in handout 8 and 9. By naming the parents of Galaction, Leucippe, and Clitophon, the same names as the protagonists of Achilles Tatius' novel, readers can see the many praiseworthy traits of the novel characters placed upon the characters of the martyr text, including Galaction and Episteme. In response to this analysis, a number of questions arise. Due to the relationship of Galaction and Episteme and the use of Platonic themes, is this a critique on monastic work and an attempt to emphasize the family and their respective relationships? Why are Leucippe's traits emphasized and not Clitophon's as much? What other reasons are there for using these names? By asking these questions and others, further work can be done on Passio, Sanctorum, Galactionis, et Epistemes in order to shed more light on the use of the ancient novel in martyr texts, as well as how and why martyr texts used Greek and Roman literature within their respective works. Thank you.